Hello, and welcome to the SMEFocus show, powered by MTDCNC. I'm your guest host this week. I'm Mark Weymouth from the Sensor Specialist Plus Automation. I'm here carrying on the great work this show does in supporting the UK manufacturing sector and highlighting SMEs. My guest today is Tim Allen. Tim's a vocal supporter of UK manufacturing, and he's also the UK VP of Sales and Business Development at B2Wise, an MRP or demand-driven software company. Hi, Tim.
Hi, Mark. Thanks for having me on, and great to join you online.
Well, it's nice to have a guest that's so local, so to speak. You're just in Worcester as well, so we can have the Worcester hour or the Worcester quarter of an hour. Let's not scare people.
Sounds great.
Looking at LinkedIn, it tells me, if you forgive me for saying that you've had 30 years experience of selling supply chain software solutions. So I'm guessing you're good at it.
Yeah, thanks.
Hopefully you enjoy it. Can you tell me more?
Yeah, thanks, Mark. Hopefully I'm good at it, but it's been quite a journey. You know, my early career was in manufacturing. I worked in South Africa as a laboratory technician, and then moved into manufacturing, primarily in the oils sector. And from there, it was a natural progression into the supply chain. But in those days, we called it transport and distribution. And then later on, people started calling it logistics. And I eventually ended up working for a software company in South Africa that did supply chain planning. At the time, we called ourselves a logistics software company. But yeah, we've been in supply chain, as the term is more generally known. And it's great to be in that because it's exciting. You know, the background is when we had COVID, when we had the evergreen in the Suez Canal, everyone suddenly sat up. They started looking at, what is this thing called the supply chain? So I get a lot more recognition when I say to people, yep, I work in supply chain, than when I said I worked in logistics software. So it's good. It's been a good journey, and the industry has come along a lot. It's gone from, well, when I first started, it was very basic DOS-based programs, everything with the tab and the shift button on your keyboard. And of course, now it's online. It's so much more fancy. So yeah, it's good to have gone along with that. And you keep on learning, which is great.
Yes, so it's funny to hear supply chain being talked about so much. At times, having served our customers so well through the COVID crisis, I kind of wonder how long they're going to remember that we serve them so well, but perhaps supply chain will stay as part of the conversation going forward. I'm not so convinced, but let's see. It's definitely part of your conversation. So at B2Wise, what do B2Wise specifically do? I gave a very poor introduction, I'm sure. So tell us more about B2Wise.
Sure, no problem. First, a bit about the name. B2 stands for two brothers, Kevin and Trevor Boak, and they started off in the supply chain software business pretty much around the same time that I did. That was back in South Africa. Strange enough, Trevor and myself worked together, and Kevin was a competitor at that time. But the two brothers have combined forces, and in 2016 started B2Wise. So the B2 is the two brothers. The Wise is about bringing intelligence to the supply chain, helping people make better decisions, helping the software do really intelligent things. And yes, we speak about DD-MRP, demand-driven MRP, where MRP stands for material requirements planning. And it's a way of planning that takes the philosophy or the theory, which is about 50 years old, in fact, of material requirements planning, but it makes it a little bit more agile and makes it react to demand, to true demand. So somebody said to me, hey, Tim, what's the difference between B2Wise and any other software company that does material requirements planning? I would say we work with the demand signals to make products flow through the bill of material explosion. That's the material requirements planning part. But it does it without having people building up stock based on a forecast which never comes true. So it is more reactive, and this new approach, it's been around probably for about the last 10 years since the Americans picked it up and decided to refine the basics of MRP planning. And B2Wise, it's a UK-based company. It's in Birmingham, so not that far of a commute for me. And we're picking up some really great clients in the industry, people in manufacturing, because obviously if you're assembling or manufacturing, you've got components, you've got sub-assemblies, and what you want to do is have all of that together so that you can deliver the finished product within the kind of lead time that the customer wants. And remember when you spoke just a short while ago about customers and supply chain, it's really important these days for customers to get great service from their suppliers. And in the old days, a supplier might get an order and they say, right, we're going to procure the parts, 3 months lead time, then we'll manufacture it, 2 months lead time, and then final quality control and checkout process of about a month. So there's a 6-month lead time. And that would have been the old traditional material requirements planning. These days, customers are saying, how soon can I get it? And what manufacturers want to either say is, it's available from stock, or we have part finished items in stock, we will configure to order or refine or make to order, but that they've got the materials ready so that they can respond to that customer demand, do some kind of finishing or manufacturing process, and get the end product to the customer within a much shorter lead time. That essentially is what DDMRP does. It's a little bit different to the old approach, wait for the order or forecast for something and then plan all the way along that lead time. It's more a case of saying, what's the short customer demand time? In other words, how quickly does the customer want it? And how can we plan and hold inventory to be able to get the finished product to them in that time? So that's what they do, and we're doing great. Strange enough, this is one of our customers, Weirdfish, the clothing company. We help them provide inventory to their stores. They have their own outlets. They have, what do you call it, discount outlets, like the one that you get near the motorway services, and they have concessions. And they're able to relocate inventory across the UK within 1 to 2 days to meet the kind of customer demand and have their shelves displaying the right amount of stock. On the other side of that, we've got customers like Rotork, probably one of your customers, Mark. Rotork manufacture pneumatics, pumps, hydraulic equipment, and they have multi-stage bill of materials. And they're a global company, and we're helping them complement the big ERP systems that they have in their companies by bringing that focus to how do they plan the demand and have the inventory ready to meet it. So quite a range of customers. And while some of them may be a little bit larger, there's no reason why SMEs who face a challenge of dealing with inventory couldn't take advantage of it. Everyone has challenges in their work, and the difference between the big companies and the little companies is just the value of the inventory. It's often the case that they have complex challenges as well. So we're looking forward to working with more and more companies. Doesn't really matter about their size.
Okay, so the demand-driven way of working with MRP or pull through.
Yep.
So it's interesting. Obviously, to my mind, I can see the applicability to manufacturers and maybe particularly more so to SMEs who are working from one batch to another and much requiring flexibility. Is there any particular advice from your experience that you could give to SMEs?
Yeah, I think what they need to do is have a look and say, how much of our inventory are we holding just in case, and are we overly influenced by large batch sizes from our suppliers? So often what happens is your suppliers say, if you buy from us, you've got to buy large quantities, because the suppliers are saying they want to deliver it as economically as possible. And often it puts SMEs in the place where they're holding too much inventory. They've got to pay for that inventory. They're not converting it into a finished product and getting the cash flow coming back in by selling it to the customer. So if they're having difficulty in managing the cash and having too much tied up in inventory, they should really think about looking at something like demand-driven material requirements planning, because it means that you're bringing in inventory and you're reacting to customer demand. You're improving that cash cycle by not paying for too much inventory and not releasing it by actually selling the finished product. So the challenge is there in small companies and big companies. We see it wherever we go. It's just the scale of the problem will vary with the size of a company, but there are common issues there.
Okay, that's interesting to hear. You see many times that particularly the SME is often squeezed in between the raw material manufacturer only willing to supply in large volumes and the end customer wanting to buy in small volumes, and offshoring their stock, should we say, almost to the SME. So yeah, I can totally understand your comment and the advice to manage that process more leanly and not to be squeezed from both sides. Interesting.
Yeah, and one other thing, I was going to say one other thing on that. We also find that we help our clients get into better communication with their suppliers. If they're changing the way they do things, moving from an old approach to a new approach, there's communication that has to come in. There's a bit of change management which needs to take place. And we would encourage people to have those conversations, to speak to their customers and to their suppliers and say, let's look at a different way of working which works for everyone. Just encouraging that communication would be another really good tip for the SMEs.
Okay. I noticed on your LinkedIn profile there's an advert for a supply chain event, almost cryptic. It's in Birmingham in November. Can you tell me more about a supply event?
Absolutely. This is an event that we're hosting. It's the 18th and 19th of November in central Birmingham. And what it is, it's a combination of educating people about the DDMRP process. That's on day one. And then day two is a user forum, but not just with our customers, with prospects and interested parties, where topics on the agenda include, how do you prepare yourself for change when AI comes into complementing your business? What areas is AI coming in? What do you need to do about it? How can people think about it differently? And then also talking about resilience. So that event, places on day one are a little bit restricted, but it's where we play a game called DD Bricks. DD for demand driven, bricks because we use Lego bricks, and we put people in teams where they simulate a couple of weeks or months in a company where you have demand, you have to assemble products, you have to make them available for quality control, and they have to get to the end customer. And using DDMRP principles, these teams play that game and compete against each other in teams, which is a lot of fun. And they get to see firsthand how something like DDMRP allows for this different approach. So we do that on day one. Hopefully they would come to day two, join in our event, speak to other customers, listen to some industry experts, and walk out of here saying, yeah, I feel energized. I want to make a change. And it could just be that DDMRP is the way they need to go. So that event, 18th, 19th of November, I'm on LinkedIn. By all means, the SMEs could contact me on there. Let's communicate. If we get too many for day one, wow, that'd be lovely. But what we could always do is look at running subsequent DD Brick sessions, because it's a great way to train people. It's very similar to the beer game. The beer game has been around for many years, teaching people about supply chains and the bullwhip effect. It's similar to that, but it's Lego bricks. It's proprietary to us. We've registered it as DD Bricks, and it's a lot of fun. So maybe we'll see some of the SMEs there. It'll be great.
Okay, interesting. Moving away from work, I guess we got to know each other through trying to make a bit of noise in support of UK manufacturing on LinkedIn and different things. One of the topics we talked about, and one I think be interesting to hear you share your thoughts, is the UK's heavy dependency on importation. Thoughts maybe on offshoring, reshoring. So can I give you a couple of moments to share your thoughts, have a little rant to the audience maybe?
Sure. Yeah, I'm very proud and privileged to be living and working in the UK. You can hear from my accent that I wasn't educated in Worcestershire. I actually grew up in East Africa, in Kenya, and then in South Africa. But coming to the UK just makes you appreciative of what the UK has to offer, our proud history in manufacturing. So I'm all for encouraging local business, British business, especially support your local high street. I'm a little bit aggressive in the way. I prefer not to deal with all of these e-commerce sites which are importing goods from who knows where with what level of quality standards. I'd far rather shop local, buy local. And I think it's really important that we support our local British firms, because if we don't, who else will? And a lot of companies are looking at maybe reshoring or nearshoring their suppliers so that they can be more reactive. Well, it'd be great if they were onshored, in other words, on the British mainland itself, because that gives you quicker response time, better communication, and guess what? It all helps in reducing the lead times of manufacturing your end products or even distributing your end products. And that's part of the principles of what our software actually does. So yes, very definitely, Mark. It's all about let's support UK manufacturing. We've both used that hashtag shout about UK manufacturing, hashtag Minister for Manufacturing. We've really got to get our businesses and industries up the level of consciousness and support them and keep them going.
Here. The last question is typically what do you have planned for the next 12 months, but I guess we can change that almost now to what does 2025 have in store for you?
2025, still very focused on work, expanding the business. We're taking our approach to the USA. Not me personally, no thank you. I don't care who gets in, I'd rather be in the UK. And hopefully with the industrial strategy that the new government is putting out, 2025 will see us working as hard as ever, but delivering results and just making the UK the great place to live in.
Okay, well, I thank you very much for that sort of upbeat wrap up. That was very professional, Tim. More generally, I will say if any of you'd like to get in touch with the show with a comment, suggestion, or if you'd like to appear in a future episode, please email us at inquiries@mtdcnc.com or contact myself, Stuart Whitehead, or Joe Reynolds. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoy the rest of your weekend. From me, Mark Weymouth at Plus Automation. Cheers. Have fun.